Tall or down?
West Bountiful.
Oh, okay.
Fruit Heights.
Fruit Heights.
Idaho and Texas right here.
Oh, okay.
But we live in West Bountiful
Yeah.
now,
Oh,
so.
okay.
Salt Lake, but 22 years ago.
All right, welcome to Bountiful, all of you that aren't Bountifulites. My name's Tom Tolman. I'm the director of the museum and chairman of the Bountiful Historic Preservation Foundation. That's a mouthful, but that's our foundation that runs the place, a 501c3 organization. And I'm the historian of Bountiful. I've been archiving the history of Bountiful all my adult life. I have a degree in art, photography, and history, and so I've been trying to archive a lot of the old photographs. I know everybody from before 1900. Anybody after that has to wear a name tag. Bountiful was settled by a guy by the name of Peregrine Sessions 3 months after the first party of Brigham Young came into the valley. I'll tell you a little more later. Let me tell you about this house. This house was built, or not built, but was owned by Charles Mabee. Charles Mabee was one of the governors of the state of Utah. And he lived in here 2 of his 4-year term while he was governor. So we like to think this is the governor's mansion in Bountiful. This is our claim to fame. He lived next door to another guy by the name of Cal Rampton, who was also a governor. So this is Governor's Row right here. And we have 2 governors from the state of Utah, born and raised next door to each other from the town of Bountiful. So rumor has it they want to tear this house down, and the Mabee family's not happy about that. So
They used it for the governor's mansion too, right?
yeah, they used it because they didn't have a governor's mansion at that time in Salt Lake. So both Governor Rampton and Governor Mabee were born and raised right next door here. Governor Mabee married a Rampton girl. There's a plaque that tells all about that stuff on this street, mostly about the Rampton family. Excuse me, Henry Rampton was the first blacksmith in Bountiful. This shop was right up here on the corner where the blind shop is. And so they had a lot of good memories up and down there. 2 or 3 of their homes are the Rampton family right in here. So.
So is this the original building for the blacksmith?
Well, the blacksmith was originally just a wooden building, then they built a brick one. And then later on that became the Rampton Motors. They sold cars out of there. Governor Rampton's dad owned it. He wanted his son to go into it, but he wanted to be a lawyer, so he went to the University of Utah and didn't sell cars. So anyway, so that's a good original. If you had the chance when you're in town, go across the street here to the corner to the Art Center. They have a nice pioneer art exhibit in there, and you can see that and enjoy that. There are places on Main Street where a lot of fun things take place. This used to be a duplex house where this building's built. And Governor Rampton was born in one side of that duplex house. I did a video interview with Governor Rampton just a few days or a few years before he died. He told us a lot of good information about Bountiful. It was good to know. Just an odd beat, which was 100 years later. This little town right here, 55, used to be what's called Service Drug. That's where everybody hung out. Instead of going to church across the street, we'd sneak over here in between Sunday school, and have breakfast.
Priesthood.
Priesthood, yeah, we had our priesthood meeting in there. But that's another story. That's another century. So we won't go there. I see a lot of smiles on here. Somebody must have been there. Okay, let's go back another 100 years then. This is the Bountiful Tabernacle. This was, ground was broken in 1857 by Lorenzo Snow up on the corner. And then it took 6 years to build. And the Bountiful Tabernacle is the oldest continuous used church in the LDS Church. There's no other church older. There's other buildings that are older, but they haven't been in continuous use. So this has the distinction that every Mormon prophet in this dispensation has spoken from the pulpit, with the exception of the prophet Joseph Smith, because he didn't come west. And so they were going to tear this back or down in the 80s. The church building department really didn't have any sense of historical value in their heads, so they wanted to tear it down. And so miracles, modern day miracles, actually saved us. And so the original rectangle part was what was originally built in 1863. It took 6 years to build and dedicated in 1863. Then the rest of the stuff was architecturally put around the building, but the original structure is still there. The foundation walls are 6 feet thick with big adobe bricks that are about a foot thick. So it's cool in the summer, warm in the winter. And my family, my great-great-grandfather came here in the second party of Brigham Young in 1848. And he was put in charge of the construction of this building the day after the dedication of the ground. Him and this kid's great-great-grandpa, Joseph Holbrook, who was my third great-grandfather. And they were in charge of the lumber the following day. They went up the canyon here and got their lumber out, and nobody wanted to help them build a road to get into the canyon. So they built a toll road. They charged people to get in the canyon to get their lumber out. They weren't no dummies, you know. And so it became known as Holbrook Canyon after Joseph Holbrook. And that's the one that's just south of the temple up there on Bountiful Boulevard. So you can see the original structure there. Big, thick adobe walls, whole nine things. They started to build it, and then Johnson's army came into town. They were going to take care of all these Mormons out here. And so they covered it all over and used most of the lumber to build wagons to head south and get away from the army. The army never did anything. They marched all the way through. About 6 months later, they came back just in time to plant some crops for the winter. And the rest is history. So.
They also stored berries and potatoes and things.
Well, they stored their wheat in the basement. And then they put dirt on top of it, plowed it over so it didn't look like a farm. Yeah, I actually had kindergarten there in the basement. Back when we were war babies and there were so many of them, Stoker School that was across the street was full. So we actually had kindergarten in the basement. And then there was a family by the name of Staley's that came to town, and they didn't have a place to stay. So they let them stay in the basement while they were working on the tabernacle. And they had a baby girl born in the basement of that tabernacle before it was finished. So that was kind of fun. And then they lived right here on the corner and then became the owners of the Davis County Clipper for 102 years. Started in 1892. We have a display over the museum that talks about the Clipper where you can look up the old Clipper archives. And so if you're looking for an obituary, a great-great-grandpa or something, you can find it in there and bring it up. It's with the Marion Library at the University of Utah. And that computer goes right to that. So that's a neat source of material and information. I found more about my great-grandfather by scanning through those pictures or through those archives than any of his journals that he happened to leave us. Yeah. Just don't forget to turn right up here. Okay, we're passing this store here on the corner. This used to be the Bountiful Lumber and Supply Company. The day it closed its doors about 4 or 5 years ago, it was the oldest family-owned business in the state of Utah. The Fisher family owned it. Thomas Fisher came as a pioneer in the early 1800s. He started this in 1892. That building was built around 1920. And his great-grandson was in there, Wayne Fisher. If he ever needed anything, he'd go over there and ask Wayne. He'd go down the basement, 10 minutes later, he'd come back and he'd have it. Didn't matter what it was. Horseshoes or hand grenades, he'd find it, you know. It was kind of funny. We built that building down the basement in the museum because it was such a place in Bountiful. We repurposed some of the windows out of Stoker School. Stoker School was across from the tabernacle. We didn't talk about that because that's a sore spot. city tore that down last year. They shouldn't have done it. And that was built on the great grandpa in 1805. But the oldest building in Davis County. The oldest building in Davis County. So needless to say, we were upset about that whole thing. These city fathers, like, they just get an idea, they tear everything down, build something new. They have no respect for it.
They're really good at tearing stuff down in the city, but they don't do that.
Okay, there is one guy that kept everything that he needed to, and that was this guy right here. His name was George Fidel. George Fidel was a mayor in the 50s in Bountiful. And you see the square part of the building, the rectangle part there in the back, was known as Bliss Hall. This was built in the late 1850s. And that was the non-denominational school and church in Bountiful. So the kids who weren't Mormon kids went to here. They got their education, they went to school there, they went to church there. It was a congregational church. The pastor came from back east in the Massachusetts area. And George Fidel got wind that the congregational church was going to tear it down. George was not an LDS guy, and so he decided to buy it. He had his law business along with somebody else and a dentist. So they approached him about the idea of buying it and then give them other land to build their church on it. So that's what he did. So he built this, or bought this in the late 1950s. And he's had it ever since. And he's a rock mason too. So all this rock work you see on the outside of that original building, he did. Any home around Bountiful that has rock work in it after the 50s, he did. He's already built 2 or 3 homes. He's 94 years old today. He's still alive. He's sharp as a tack. I've interviewed him 3 or 4 times, and he can tell the history of Bountiful right from day one. And it's really neat. And when they were remodeling that, his 2 kids came on board for his law practice. Nobody had been upstairs in the attic of the old school for 100 years. Nobody had ever gone up there. So they went up there and they found a treasure of items from the school, from the church, books, reading material, posters, all kinds of memorabilia. And so his grandson was looking for an Eagle project. So when they turned that over to him, we sent him up to the University of Utah and taught him how to preserve all those things, how to clean them up and make them really look nice. And then he's donated that entire collection to us at the museum. So we have a display over there. We have readers that go back to 1600s in Massachusetts. When somebody says that one reader, we could probably end up selling it and pay for the museum because it's probably worth a fortune. So anyway, those are the good old days back in. Now, Second West here used to be the home of the Bamberger Railroad. Anybody remember the Bamberger Railroad? Simon Bamberger was the governor of the state of Utah. And remember this corner. I'll tell you about this corner in a second. But anyway, he developed the Lagoon Resort. So to get everybody out of Salt Lake up to his resort, he made his own railroad. It's called the Bamberger after him. So it was an electric trolley car. Came along Second West, he developed it to the Lagoon Resort. Upstairs in the museum, we reconstructed that around 1940. We go through Bountiful, Centerville, ends up at Lagoon with a full operating lagoon. Okay, back there on the corner where the bank was, there used to be a teenagers hangout. Okay, it was called Hale's Hall. Stephen Hales built it. Why? You go in there and go dancing, take your sweetheart down there for the week, have a good time, have something to eat, go roller skating, all kinds of fun things in there. The Bamberger came along, they'd bring bands from Salt Lake, they'd drop them off there, they'd play all night till midnight, and the Bamberger take them back to Salt Lake. Well, one day, there was a little guy up on the east bench, his name was Ephraim Tolman, that was my grandpa. He was a teenager and he wanted to go to the dance. So he got this little girl from over in Centerville, her name was Maggie Duncan. Took her to the dance and they were having a good time. Down on the west side of town, down by Hogan Park, there was this little girl named Phoebe Hogan. And she wanted to go to the dance, but she couldn't find a date. So she talked her big brother, Don, to take her to the dance. Now, how many people like to go to the dance with your brother and sister? So he tagged along, and they started to dancing, and finally Don started to dancing with Maggie, and he was enjoying that little relationship. Ephraim started dancing with Phoebe. They were getting along pretty good, so they kept that the whole night. Ephraim ended up taking Phoebe home. Don ended up taking Maggie home. 6 months later, they were both married for time and all eternity, and lived for 50 years together. And true story. Ephraim and Phoebe were my grandma and grandma. And Eric, or Don Hogan, then was my great uncle. And so it was kind of interesting how that happened, how they met, fell in love. We just come by the city headquarters over there. One time we wanted to build our museum over there by the Art Center. The city had other plans. They tore that down, so I got slam dunk for that job. You know, I've been in the military, and I think I should have got combat pay for many scenarios I've been in, and almost got them done, and then somebody pulls the carpet out from underneath and didn't quite get done. So anyway, we finally got to the Smedley home built in 1893, a nice, beautiful, historic home. And that's becoming a real nice place for us to spend the rest of our days. When I die, they'll just bury me out back underneath that pine tree, and then that pine tree will really take off. A lot of manure there. So. All right, as we come along down here, we come into the Bountiful Cemetery. I imagine everybody has some kind of connection out here to the Bountiful Cemetery. It started out in Woods Cross area, and then they took a number of the graves up here and started the cemetery in Bountiful because there wasn't that much room down there. And there was the water table there was too high, and so they had problems with that. So they brought it up here. It was owned by the LDS Church for a number of years, and then they finally sold it to the city, and so Bountiful takes care of it. So it's called the Bountiful Memorial Cemetery. So as we come along here, you'll see a lot of the graves on this side of the cemetery, along the second west, are all the pioneer ancestors. And you'll see names that were synonymous with all those early pioneers. You'll see the Sessions and the Holberts, the Barlows, the Calls, the Stringhams, the Tolmans. My great-great-grandpa's buried there. Great-grandpa, a whole lot of other family relatives. You know, back in those days, second cousins married second cousins, and that's why we're all just a little strange. So you can see here, you'll notice some of the names are synonymous over there that we have, and we've got the Hales, like Stephen Hales, his place is right there. We got the Briggs. Yeah, here's the Hills. And the Clarks, you know, all of them. They're all Argyles, are part of the woodwork. And these all go back to the early 1800s when this was established. Crosby's is part of the Hales family. The Stokers, John Stoker, he owned the land where Stoker's schools. On this tree right up here, you'll see. Oops.
Did we miss it?
Oh, we missed it. It's back there. Anyway, there was a sign that said, a monument that said Tolman. That's where my great-great-grandpa was buried. And a few years ago, I came over and did a survey and found about 4 plots of cemetery plots that hadn't been used around his property for over 100 years. So my dad at the time was the oldest living descendant of Judson. So he made a quick claim deed on those and got them for nothing. And then he turned them over to me just before he died. So I'm going to be buried next to my great-great-grandpa. So when the rolls fall up yonder and we all get resurrected together, we'll be standing there and hugging each other. Now over here, we have the east, on the east side, was the East Farm. They owned that property across the street from the cemetery. The city just bought that, but eventually moved the cemetery over to there. Or extended over, not moved it, extended over. And the original home is the old red brick home that was right here. And then the barn's out behind. And so that was a big farm up there, went all the way up to where Orchard Drive, where Dick's Market is and all that stuff. And I have some early pictures of that I shot years ago. Now we're out to about the south end of what Bountiful was back in those days, 2600 South. And this is settled by a guy by the name of John Bolton. And John Bolton, then, so the area is named after him and his farm. We have the Bolton Elementary that's right here on the corner. And then up around the corner we have his old homestead that's on the National Register of Historic Places. In the Clipper I found an article that says that this is Boltonville. It was so far out of Bountiful, downtown Bountiful, 3 or 4 miles, that they actually had a settlement called Boltonville. They said, come out to Boltonville and get your vegetables because they're the best in town. So that's kind of interesting to know how that happened. So as we come around the corner here, where the light is, you'll look off over here on your left side, and just past the intersection, you'll see an old rock home. And that was John Bolton's home. Then you'll see the old barn out behind. And that's probably one of the old barns. There's only about 2 barns left, the east barn and then this barn here. And as you come around the corner, you'll be able to see that old house there. Old rock home right there. That's the old original homestead, yeah. And then you see the old barn out back. They have a lot of paraphernalia out behind the barn. I may know what a manure spreader is. Most of you know what a manure spreader is. Well, they have a manure spreader over here behind the Bolton barn. So I was going to go get it and drag it over to my museum and set me on it and tell stories. And I could sit on there and tell stories. I figure I've been spreading it for 50 years, I'll just spread it for another 50. Okay, coming along Orchard Drive, this used to be the home of the Bountiful Canal. Now, Governor Mabee and a few others up on the hill decided that the farmers needed more water because everybody on the east side got all their water out of the canyons. Out of Mill Stream, North Canyon, Over Canyon, Ward Canyon, Martin Creek, Snow Creek. But the guys down here, by the time we got here, all the water was gone. So nobody on the west side could get some water. So they got this bright idea to pump water out of the Jordan River down west of the refineries and pump it up to a big cistern at the end of the, up here in North Salt Lake. So they did that, and they had two canals, the upper canal and the lower canal. And they gravity flowed the water all the way to Pages Lane in Centerville, all the way from North Salt Lake. Can you believe that? So that was a feat of engineering, and that provided water for all the farmers on the other side. So on our farm display in the museum, we have a 1929 map that I found that shows this Bountiful Canal, shows all the farms and all the farmers, and how many acre-feet of water they got out of those canals. And so you can go over there and you press one button, you can see the old one. Press the other button, it puts the new one on top. So you can see what's there today, or who owned the farm back in the 1920s. So it's kind of a fun little trick there we put together.
So how many families lived up on the hill versus down in the canal? Or if the water was all
Not too many. Most of them were down there. They figured you were too poor, so they lived up on the hill.
like the Briggs family was up there?
Yeah,
I lived
exactly.
on Briggs Drive.
Yeah. Yeah, my third great grandfather, second great grandfather was Thomas Briggs, and he was quite the farmer.
A lot of peach trees, I guess.
Oh, he had everything. He had a set of greenhouses that I'd sure like to see what they look like. Okay, so this is a replica of the old Heber C. Kimball grist mill that's right behind it there. And that was erected about 1935 by the DUP, the Daughters of Utah Pioneers. And so at one time, back in the trees there, was the largest grist mill west of the Mississippi. Heber C. Kimball built it. They'd grind all their corn and wheat and flour and all that stuff in here. During the floods of 1983, they were digging out the catch basin here, and they found the original grist stones, and that's what these big things are here. And that was what was in there. And so we did an archaeological dig back there in the 1990s, and so we uncovered the wall. We found the place where the water wheel was. A kid did an Eagle Scout project, erected these 3 pedestals to tell the history. So you can park over here in the Bountiful parking lot, and walk over here and walk back in there and see the actual background of the mill site. The pond was used for the LDS Church or baptisms back in those days. And in the wintertime, when it froze over with ice, the kids would go ice skating. Heaven forbid the kid had to get baptized in the middle of the winter. He would have remembered that one, wouldn't he? Now along Orchard Drive, there used to be a Bountiful streetcar that came along here in the 1920s. Only ran for a few years. When I was on the city council, I was city councilman for 12 years. We talked about bringing tracks up here on Main Street. And everybody got upset. Well, we can't have tracks on Main Street. We never had a train on Main Street. I says, hello, we did have a track. It was the Bountiful trolley. And it came along here. This 2-story house or building on the corner right here was the powerhouse for that. And they had great big generators in the bottom, and that provided the power for it. It came along Orchard Drive, came along to First South, went down First South to Main Street, then went north on Main Street all the way to Chase Lane in Centerville. And for 25 cents, you could ride it to the University of Utah to go to school. And so when the guys started hollering about a train being on Main Street, I said, hello, it was on there a long time ago. And then, of course, nobody knew anything about that, other than some history nut. So, now, as we go along 4th East here, there used to be a wall along the city. There was a fort wall around the and here on the Center Street, on that sign that we just passed, I should have told you about it, but you'll see it over here at 4th North. It's called the Bountiful Fort Historic District. And so it's on the National Register of Historic Places. The wall went around 4th East, down 4th North, 2nd West, and up 5th South. Because of Plat A, which was the original layout of Bountiful back in the early days. Laid out everything north, south, east, west. After that, then they just followed a sheep and created Orchard Drive or any of these other streets that are around. So see here on the corner on the street sign, you'll see a sign that says Bountiful Fort Historic District up on the top of it. See that?
Did they ever have any problems where they needed a fort?
Yeah, that's the reason they put it up. Brigham said there were too many skirmishes with the Indians, and a few Indians and white people lost their lives, and so. But then later on, Brigham said it's cheaper to feed the Indians than fight them. So things mellowed out, and the fort was never finished. It was all made of mud and rocks and sticks and everything. It was supposed to be 12 feet high. It never was finished. Some of the last remnants were up here on the corner of 4th North and 4th East. Now you notice the 4th North's wider than a lot of the streets in Bountiful. The reason being the fort wall was right in the middle where the Indian is now. And so when they tore the fort wall down, there was a road on both sides, on the outside and the inside. So that's why this became so wide. And then this became a racetrack. So back in the early days, everybody bring their horses down here and have racetracks. Now Dad used to go to priesthood meeting on Thursday nights over at the Tabernacle. And he'd park his horse, and he'd come out and the horse would all be lathered up, and he couldn't figure out why. Well, kids were still teenagers back there, so while Dad was in priesthood meeting, the kids would get the horses to come over here and have a race all the time, and lather up the horses. So some things never change. Now Joseph Holbrook was a pretty well-to-do guy. He had a lot of kids and a lot of family and a lot of land, and he had 3 sons in particular that we'll talk about here for a minute. And one of his sons built this home here in the mid 1850s, and all made out of rock out of the canyons, and so that was one of his sons. And then over here on the left-hand side, your left-hand side, is another one of his sons who built this other rock house. The wife of the son over here was a midwife, and she would say, or people on board my bus would say, well, my grandma was born there because they had a lot of babies born up the upstairs of that house. And so that was always fun to hear those connections. So, okay. Oh, okay. getting busy this afternoon.
What's this one coming up?
Yeah, just on the left-hand side there. Yeah, yeah, with all the stuff around.
Big one.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, all the Virginia creeper home.
So there are a bunch of Willie stone houses too around there.
Yeah, they're down on the second west. We'll talk about them in a minute. And then another son built this house here on the corner of 9th North. This is around 1880. There was a big brick on the corner. You can't see it's beyond the tree that has actually embossed it and says 1880. And that was another one that Joseph Holbert. So these Holberts are all over the place, you know. Now, Bountiful was a farming community. A lot of beautiful work farming. There aren't any left. There's one farm just straight east of here, the Bangeter farm. Okay, Charles Bangeter, Dad owned it before. Now Charles is gone. His son Alan and his family takes care of it. I let him grow all my crops now. I'm getting too old to grow crops anymore. I was born and raised on 7 acres just east of here, and we had a good farm. And so one day over at my farm, I told my grandpa, I says, I got it too tough. I'm going to go work for Charlie Bangeter. Now, if anybody knew Charlie Bangeter, he had a reputation for teaching kids a new vocabulary besides teaching them how to work. And so I was over there hoeing some cucumbers, just beating the daylights out of these cucumbers, clear up on the top end of the hoe. Next thing I know, I get this whack behind my head. Says, Tolman, what are you doing? Hell's sake, bend over, get down on that hoe. Get those weeds out like you're supposed to. Your grandpa didn't teach you to do that. So I kind of murmured a little bit. I finished the row off, dropped the hoe, and went home, never went back. I've heard a lot of stories that people only lasted about one day with Charlie. The ones that lasted a little longer really knew how to work, but they worked the rest of their lives. So, I tell those stories to Alan, he just shakes his head. He knew what old Charlie was like.
The good ones when you worked with Joe Tuttle.
Yeah, Joe Tuttle. That was in your backyard, right?
Yeah.
Well, this was the end of Bountiful here, Pages Lane, and then Centerville is north of this. So Centerville was halfway between Farmington and Centerville, and so they called it Centerville, the city in between. Now, I have a degree in art, photography, and history, and so a few years ago, Mary Ellen Smoot and Marilyn Sheriff did a book called The City in Between on the history of Centerville. So I helped them with all the photography and layout of that book, published it, so that's available for you to read. So I know just almost about as much as Centerville as I do Bountiful, but my roots are in Bountiful. I tell you, the home that I live in was built by my great-grandpa in 1867, and I still live in that house. I've lived in that house for 75 years. I haven't moved. I have to tell you a quick story. One of my classmates on our 20-year class reunion called my mom to get a current address. They said, well, his address is the same. We moved, and then hung up. That poor guy says, oh, I couldn't get rid of the old lawyer, just left him there. So, all right, so this is the Call section of town. Anson Call was a great colonizer in the state of Utah. He did a lot of great things. He built one of the most beautiful homes in the entire state. And it's up here and it's going to pop. And it's a shame because it is one of the most beautiful architectural buildings. It's owned by the polygamous families now. They buy, they don't sell, they don't take care of, they don't do anything. The Call family has offered them some money and they refuse to cash the check and they won't take any money. So this is the home right here. It's had a fire in it, it's been boarded up. But look at the brickwork. You can't see a lot of the lintel and the soffit fascia of this building because of the Virginia creeper. And that Virginia creeper will just turn the daylights out of what's left there because that stuff is so notorious. But the architects in Utah really would love to see this restored. But those guys won't do a thing with it. They've been offered $1 million for it and they still won't take it. And it's a crying shame. And then the high school kids over here break in and have all kinds of weird things. And they claim they have seances in there because they think there's ghosts running around, chasing from room to room. They had a fire in there. Before the fire took place, I had the opportunity to go in there and do a photographic survey of the place before it got too destroyed. And so at least we've got that on record. But Anson Call had a great home here. During the dedication of the Bountiful Tabernacle, he hosted the entire entourage from Salt Lake City, all the prophets and apostles, 300 people, all their carriages, their horses and everything. Put them out back in the huge barn. This barn, they said, was big enough you could drive a team of horses in there with a wagon and turn it completely around and come back out. But see, you can see on this side some of the brickwork is absolutely gorgeous. So it's a shame that they won't do anything with that. So now we get out of the Call territory. I mentioned the Call, later on the Call family had the best corn in town. If you wanted some corn, the best corn you got from the Call family. And then some of these rock homes now, some of these older homes up here are part of the Willie family. So from about 10th North here over to 4th North was all Willie country. And one of my ancestors, Jane Tolman, married a Wallace Willie, who lived in this house just right up here. Another rock house, thinking that this one right here on the corner. This little rock house right here. And they get all the pebbles out of the Stone Creek, or out of Martin Creek, which is just up the field. And so Jeremiah Willie, that built the cabin that's down at the museum, built that in 1853, and then after he sold that property, he came down here and built another beautiful home later on. So this home right here on the corner, not this one, but the one on the very corner made out of rock. Jeremiah Willie built this one here. And he just got the walls up and ready to put the roof on. He wasn't feeling very good. He went out over a little bridge over the Barton Creek that was right behind the house and passed out because he wasn't feeling good. And fell into the creek and drowned before anybody found him. His kids found him about an hour or two later, but they couldn't resuscitate him. And so they had to finish the house for him. So, a little neat history there. One of his ancestors, or one of his descendants, lives in there now, taking care of it. So a lot of these homes then were part of the family of Daniel Carter. That the brickwork around that building there was part of his work. And this is his work right here. This is the Daniel Carter barn. It's the oldest building in Bountiful, built 1850, standing at its original location. And so it hasn't moved. Years ago, there was a nursery company, landscaping company in here. They had just built this new facility in here, $1 million, when we were looking for a place to call home. I had been on the council about 6 or 8 months. I went to the council and I said, I need $250,000 to buy this property for the museum. They just laughed at me. He said, Tolman, what are you doing? You only been here 6 months and you're asking for $250,000? You're out of your mind. I said, yeah, but this is great. This is the oldest place in town. It'd be great for the museum. That'd be great for the museum. We could move the cabin over here. Everything would be hunky-dory. Well, they kissed that goodbye just like they did everything else, I suppose, for the last 15, 20 years. And finally, one time later on, after a lot of these things had gone by, I said to the mayor, I says, now to do the same thing that I wanted to do 12 years ago will cost you $2.5 million. He says, well, we didn't know that then. I says, I'm sorry, I knew that. I had a vision. The vision comes from here. It comes from your heart, not from your head. And those politicians just work from their head. Okay, Peregrine Sessions' great-grandson came in one day, and he said 200 yards from the back of this barn, down this direction, was where Peregrine Sessions had his first dugout. He told us that, documented it. It's on a plaque right here on the back of this building. If you come down sometime, sit in the parking lot, go over to the back of the building, there's a plaque that'll tell the history of that 200 yards is where Peregrine Sessions had his first dugout in the winter of 1847. Now back on the corner of 4th North and 2nd West was an old log building. It was a schoolhouse, it was a church house, it was a city hall, it was everything. It wasn't very big. 1853, Brigham Young comes out to visit the Sessions settlement. They were meeting in that building, people hanging out the doors and windows, see Brigham Young. Brigham Young turned to Peregrine Sessions and said, you figured out a name for your little settlement yet? He says, no, I haven't. Brigham walked out the door and he saw the winter wheat waving in the field. And he says, this reminds me of the Book of Mormon, First Nephi, where Lehi took his family into the land Bountiful, full of milk and honey. And everybody says, well, that sounds like a great name. We'll name it Bountiful. Now, if you talk to the Sessions family, it was all Peregrine's idea to call it Bountiful. John Stoker was the bishop. If you talk to the Stoker family, it was all the bishop's idea. But they were all in the same meeting, so a beautiful name for a beautiful city, Bountiful.
What is a dugout?
The dugout is just a big cave built into the side of a ditch bank. That was a dry ditch bank back there. So he just built this cave into there, backed his wagon up to it, put a great big rawhide cover over the top of it, and that's how they spent the first winter. Because, you know, you get warmth from inside there like that, and so forth. Now, as we come up onto Main Street, we find an old structure that's been here since 1885, called the Jack Lewis Hotel and Saloon. Now, no Mormon boy went in there, okay? If any Mormon boy that went in there, they were just for medicinal purposes. That's it right here on the corner by Brooks. It was owned by a family known as Holbrook again. Here we got these Holbrooks. Frank Holbrook owned it, and then he made Brooks Fabric Store next to it. And at one time, it was a beautiful 3-story building. They took the top off, and they had the saloon down the basement. And the road really dipped down about 12 or 15 feet right there because the stream bed came by. During the floods of '83, they were cleaning out the stream beds. They found old whiskey bottles down in the bottom of the stream beds that weren't broken. Somebody asked me if they were full or empty. I says, I refuse to comment on grounds of being criminal.
Wow.
So there's Bountiful for you.
Thank you.
Hope you had a good time.
Thanks, Tom.
Hope you learned something.
You don't have a picture of